Today on the Audio Hotline, I'm going to be reviewing the RØDE NT-USB MINI. This USB electric condenser microphone will cost you about $99. And in this review today, I'll take you through the basics, what comes with this microphone. We'll talk about the features. We'll also talk about the RØDE Connect app that RØDE came out with a little while ago that is compatible with this microphone. We will do a lot of microphone tests, but then I will also include a comparison with the original NT-USB from RØDE, as well as a couple other USB microphones like the FiFINE K678 and the neat Skyline. And if you do want to navigate through this video and find exactly what you're looking for, I do have timestamps down below. But we'll get into everything here shortly, but first, let's get mic'd. Welcome all audio nerds to the Audio Hotline, and as I said before, we got the RØDE NT-USB MINI in the studio. And right now I am plugged into my MacBook Pro and I'm actually recording in RØDE Connect. So this microphone actually came out in like mid-February of 2020. And that was right around the time that the feces was hitting the blades that circulate on the ceiling. The original NT-USB actually came out in 2014. And I will say it does make sense because in a lot of ways, the Mini is actually a little bit more spec'd out and a little bit more capable than the original NT-USB. But the most interesting part is the fact that the NT-USB is still going for $169. $69 more than the NT-USB Mini. Actually, it's $70, but I just wanted to say $69 because I'm 6 years and 9 months old. But I do feel like the Mini maxing out at 24-bit at 48 kilohertz versus the original NT-USB maxing out at 16-bit at 48 kilohertz. No, it's not like the biggest change, but I usually do record at 24-bit at 48 kilohertz, so I love the fact that this is capable of that. But the original NT-USB still does come with really nice accessories and everything, and overall it is a really nice setup, but the fact that it is so much bigger and less feature-packed makes me lean a little bit more toward the Mini, but we'll do that sound comparison here in a little bit, and that'll be kind of the biggest deciding factor. And also, the RØDE Mini is compatible with RØDE Connect, which the original NT-USB is not. And RØDE Connect is actually pretty cool. It's essentially like a virtual software version of the RØDECaster Pro. I mean, it's not that powerful or anything, but it's still really nice. But it's actually a pretty small list of microphones that are compatible with RØDE Connect. It is the NT-USB Mini, the Video Mic NT-G, the AI Micro, and the RØDE Wireless Go 2, not the first one. But as I said, I'll take you through RØDE Connect here in a little bit. But since the NT-USB Mini is compatible with tablets and phones, I will test it out on a couple different devices. And here in a little bit, I will take it into a couple different rooms, a couple different recording scenarios, so you can really hear how it would potentially sound in your recording environment. But now let's go ahead and talk about what comes with the RØDE NT-USB Mini when you purchase it. If you decide to purchase the RØDE NT-USB Mini, it will obviously come with the microphone, and attached to that microphone is a desktop stand. But this desktop stand actually has a couple secrets up its sleeve. The mount attached to the microphone is actually magnetically attached to the base, so you can easily take the base of the desktop stand off, and in the mount of the microphone there is a little rubber piece that you will take out, and then at that point you can use the 3/8 to 5/8 inch microphone stand adapter that is included. Other than that, the NT-USB Mini does come with a USB-C to USB-A cable. This cable is 1.5 meters in length, which is roughly 5 feet. Now, when it comes to the accessories and what's included with this microphone, I do like it all. And I actually do think that the base of the desktop stand being magnetic is really creative. I really love that touch. Now, the cable that comes with it, I do wish was a little bit longer. I feel like 5 feet can be a little restricting depending on what you're using it for, obviously. Like on a desk, it's probably fine, but if you wanted to use it to record anything else, it's kind of hard. And that's actually one thing that was absolutely great about the original NT-USB is that the cable was 20 feet long. Now, as far as build quality goes, I think that everything feels really good. The only thing that I would say isn't amazing is the grill. It does have a decent amount of give to it. Now, before I move on to the next part, I do want to talk about why I'm not the biggest fan of desktop stands. So if I use this microphone on the desktop stand, the microphone is going to be substantially further away from me than if I'm using it on a microphone boom arm like I am right now, which means you're going to have to turn your gain up, which is going to introduce more noise. And if it's on your desk and you're typing or moving stuff around, all of those sounds are going to make their way into the microphone. If you're further away from the microphone in an untreated room, your voice is going to be bouncing off of all of the walls, all of the surfaces, and making its way into the microphone. Where if you're much closer to the microphone and the microphone is focused on your voice, you're not going to have as much of an issue with that. I'm just not the biggest fan of desktop stands. And I'm sure in that last little sentence you noticed a gigantic difference in the audio quality. Now I do have the microphone on the desk. I've actually had to turn my level up in RØDE Connect from level 12 to level 20 just to achieve the same level. And I can tell just even in my headphones while recording this, it doesn't sound nearly as clear. The only application I would say this desktop stand would work for is voiceover. Like you're not going to be on camera, so you don't mind, hunkering down, getting close to the microphone, just, hunching over. And this obviously sounds much better. But that's really honestly the only thing I would recommend this for. If you don't want the microphone in the camera's shot, I don't think this is a great choice. Maybe something a little bit more directional, like a small diaphragm condenser microphone or shotgun microphone would be a better choice. And I mean, if you're fine with the sound of this rather than getting the much clearer sound when it's closer, then fine, go for it. But now here's the sound of the microphone about 5 inches from my mouth, up on the desktop boom arm that I'm using. But now that we've gone over the basics and what comes with this microphone, and I had my little rant about desktop stands, now we can go ahead and move on and nerd out and talk about some specs. The RØDE NT-USB MINI is a pressure gradient electric condenser USB microphone. This has a cardioid polar pattern, a frequency response of 20 Hz to 20 kHz, a max SPL of 121 dBA, a max sample rate of 48 kHz, and a max bit depth of 24 bit. And as stated before, this is compatible with both Mac OS and Windows. I will put the operating system requirements on the screen. Now that we've talked about the specs, now we can go ahead and move on to the features of this microphone. And since RØDE Connect is a really nice addition to this microphone, essentially a feature, once I talk about the microphone's features, then I will show you RØDE Connect and kind of just briefly go through it as fast as I can, but still being thorough. On the front of the RØDE NT-USB MINI, you will see 2 indication lights. The light on the left indicates whether zero latency monitoring is engaged or not. The indicator light on the right shows you if you are connected via USB and powered efficiently. Underneath that, you will see a dial, and that is in fact the headphone volume control dial. But this dial is also a button, and when you push this button in, it will actually engage zero latency monitoring or disable it. On the back of the microphone is where you will find your 3.5mm headphone jack, and next to that you will find your USB-C port. And RØDE does state that this does have a built-in pop filter. Well, now that we've talked about the features of the microphone itself, now let's go ahead and dive into RØDE Connect. So right now I'm going to do my best to just give you a very, very quick summary of RØDE Connect. And the reason in my number 1 slot right now you don't see anything is actually because I have the RØDE Mini plugged into a separate laptop, also recording into RØDE Connect. I'll be making the same adjustments on that system as well as this one, so it'll be even. But I also do have the RØDE Video Mic NTG plugged into number 2, so we'll kind of use that as an example as far as like what the meter looks like and everything. At the very top left, you have a little mic icon, which shows you this, the console. And then under that, you have 3 lines, which shows you your recordings. But in this area, you can listen back, you can scroll through it, you can check different recordings. And also while you're recording, if you did create markers, you can go ahead and skip to those areas that you found important. It's kind of weird. The little share export button is what takes you to the delete area and also your export options and color and everything and to name it. I find that slightly confusing. I feel like they maybe should have had a trash can next to it or just even, 3 little dots like this area up here and just had a full-on menu like that. But now we'll go ahead and go back to the mic icon. Right next to that is your record button. If you press record, this will show you how long you've been recording. And like I said, you can go through markers. So if I find this part important, I can create a marker. And as soon as I stop recording, I can go back and fast forward to those important areas through that recording. Right next to that, you have your meter, then you have your settings, you got your setup assistant, and this is where you can go and drag your microphones into what channel you want them to be on. Then the next one will give you an option if you want to do system audio and virtual devices. System audio would essentially be everything that your computer would be playing, like your computer audio. So if you went and played a YouTube video, that's what that would record. A virtual device you would use more with like Zoom. And there is also a preferences section. This will show you your monitor out, your monitor mix, how you want to record, stereo, multi-track, your latency, if you want your appearance to be dark or light, and also if you want the scaling to be 1 or 2. Going down and to the left, this is where the first microphone would be, so this would usually say 1, like this one says 2. But like I said, this is plugged into the other computer right now, so we'll just use the second one as an example, which is the RØDE VideoMic NT-G. So if you click on the number 2, this little button up here, it'll show you your level, and it actually does have a little meter showing your desired level, which I do find very helpful for beginners. Underneath that, you can change your level. Since the VideoMic NT-G has a gain knob on the actual mic, I'm not really using that. These filter options and pad options actually aren't available on the RØDE Mini, so just kind of ignore those. Right now on the RØDE Mini, I am in fact using the exciter and the big bottom, and if I turn both of those off, this is what it sounds like. And now here is just big bottom, and now here is just the exciter, and now here is just the compressor, and now here is just the noise gate, but I've found some issues with the noise gate. Now with the compressor, exciter, and big bottom on, I do think it actually sounds pretty cool. It's a pretty decent sound, especially just for right out the gate presets. However, the noise gate definitely helps the noise floor level when you're not speaking, but when you are speaking, it has this weird pumping effect that just isn't good. I'm going to go ahead and leave these 3 on for the rest of this section. But when it comes to the system settings, you do also have a level control. So if I was to start playing the audio from the Neat King B2 review that I just did, there's some interesting history involved with this microphone that we'll briefly talk about. You can actually turn it down. I could talk over myself, you know, this is weird. For your system settings, you'll just have to make sure your audio settings are set to RØDE Connect system, and then anything you play on your computer will actually play through here, and you can adjust the level accordingly. Same goes for the virtual channel. You could just set that up in like your Zoom app, and then it'll send that Zoom audio directly to the virtual channel. We'll cover this last one, and then we'll kind of go over what these bottom buttons mean. Before this one, it's essentially just for the sound effects. There are some sound effects that just come baked into the system. So for instance, here's the intro outro sound. You know, you can play it while you're talking or do whatever you need to do. Or if I just say something just so hilarious, people are like, you know, thank you. You're too kind. But I don't really need to go through all of these. You can actually load your own thing into them, which is great. I have like the audio hotline theme. So if I was to do a stream, I could actually play this at the beginning of the stream through RØDE Connect, which is really cool. And as far as the buttons on the bottom go, all it's really doing is soloing a channel or muting a channel. But there is some really cool functionality to this. It's a nice little virtual mixer, especially for streamers. But another really great thing is if I wanted to export this recording, I could go ahead and change the name, do whatever, but I can actually export it to a certain amount of negative LUFS, like -16. But I could go ahead and export that, and then you actually have your audio at whatever standard you need for your platform, which is great. Now, a couple downfalls that I'll mention real quick is you're not able to splice any of this audio or make edits in it, which is a bit of a bummer. And also, when it comes to the post-processing, there is no way you can adjust these settings. If you press the button, what you hear is what you get, and that's it. But that's just a brief rundown of the RØDE Connect app. Well, now that we went through the basics, the specs, and the features, now let's go ahead and dive into some tests. Now, before I do that, I do just want to tell you that during that first section, I did have a little bit of EQ engaged, but it was just the EQ that's available in RØDE Connect. So the Aphex Exciter and the Aphex Big Bottom Big Booty was in fact engaged. It may have been a situation where I forgot they were engaged, but it was planned. I'm just going to say it was planned. But during the testing section, the microphone will be completely flat, no EQ, no post-processing or anything, unless I, of course, label it down in the lower third. Well, now let's go ahead and dive in with a proximity effect test. If you get really close to the RØDE NT-USB microphone and you give it a little sniff, it kind of smells like chili. Hey, seriously, who farted on this microphone? Huh? Now this next part is going to get pretty loud. Let's go ahead and do some plosives. This first test, I am going to just aim my plosives right at the microphone. Peter Piper picked a patch of pickled peanuts is. Peter Piper picked a patch of pickled peanuts is. Now I'm not going to talk directly into the microphone, but have it angled slightly at my mouth. Peter Piper picked a patch of pickled peanuts is. Peter Piper picked a patch of pickled peanuts. Now, if you're just gonna bung on some MX Cherry Blues or a loud keyboard or a keyboard in general, here's how it's gonna sound if it's directly behind the microphone, and here's how it's going to reject that sound. Now we're gonna go ahead and test the polar pattern with some white noise. Now, if you're going to buy this microphone, don't talk into it like this. We kind of already did a little bit of a distance test with that desktop test versus the stand test, but we'll go ahead and do one more. Here's the microphone about 5 inches from my mouth, and here's the microphone about 10 degrees from the center of my mouth, and this is about 2.5 feet away. And now here's a post-processing test, but in this test, I'm just using the ones that are available in RØDE Connect. So currently I have the big booty, big bottom on, and I have the exciter on, as well as the compressor. Now, the reason I don't have the noise gate on is because I've found some weird little issues with it, which I did show you before. Time for a kitty purr test. Now we're going to go ahead and do a couple guitar tests. And here's a quick test between a somewhat treated room versus no treatment. Here is the treated room. Right now I'm in a completely untreated room. This is a very reverberant room. It has a vaulted ceiling in it. So this is pretty worst case scenario. And just so you know, there are some kitties in here. They're sleeping. Those aren't just blobs. Those are cats. But the way I'm recording this right now is into the RØDE Reporter app, which when I looked it up online, that's what they suggest using if you're going to mobily record with the NT-USB Mini. But I'm actually not monitoring my audio from my phone. The way that I'm doing that is I'm actually sending the headphone out into the microphone jack on my camera, then I'm actually monitoring the audio with my headphone jack on the camera. So I'm actually recording audio into the RØDE Reporter app as well as directly onto this video in my camera. So if you didn't know you could do that with a USB mic and a camera, there you go. You can totally do it. And then you actually just adjust the level with the headphone gain. Pretty cool. But as you can tell, in an untreated room, you definitely get some reflections. The faster I talk and the closer I am to the microphone, the better it's going to be. I'm not really allowing it to get into the microphone as much like this. But if I take a step back, you can definitely hear that reverb a lot more, or echo, whatever you want to call it. And just for reference, check. Check. Definitely not super ideal for this recording situation, and if you do have a very poorly treated room or it is very reverberant, this might not be the microphone for you unless you are okay with the way it sounds, in which case, great. But this is kind of like multiple tests in one. This is the untreated room test, the mobile recording test, and also the camera getting audio directly into it from the headphone jack test. Lots of tests. Well, now that we've gotten all those tests out of the way, now let's go ahead and jump into the comparison. This will in fact be a blind comparison like usual. I'll put the microphones up on the screen of which ones I will be using in this comparison, but I will just be labeling them A, B, C, D, so on and so forth. And then I will reveal which microphones were associated with which letter right after the comparison. During this comparison, I won't be using any of the effects that are available in RØDE Connect. It will just be the NT-USB Mini flat mode. Let's go ahead and get into it. Here is the sound of microphone A in this blind comparison. Here is the sound of microphone B in this blind comparison. Now here is the sound of microphone C in this blind comparison. Here is the sound of microphone D in this blind comparison. Here is the sound of microphone E in this blind comparison. Once again, here is microphone A, A as in astronomical asshole. Once again, here is microphone C, C as in cumin cuddle coat. Once again, here is microphone E, E as in evacuate ooey elevator. Once again, here is microphone B, B as in beauty beheads the beast. Once again, here is microphone D, D as in delightfully dank dessert. Here is the astronomical asshole microphone, microphone A. Here is the evacuate ooey elevator microphone, microphone E. Here is the beauty beheads the beast microphone, microphone B. Here is the cumin cuddle coat microphone, microphone C. Here is the delightfully dank dessert microphone, microphone D. Alright, are you guys ready for the big reveal? I hope so. I hope you are because it's coming right now. Microphone A in this blind comparison was actually the microphone that this whole review is about. This is the RØDE NT-USB MINI, which goes for $99. Microphone B was the FiFINE K678, which usually comes in around $60. Microphone C in the blind comparison was the blue Yeti, which can go anywhere from $100 to $130. Microphone D in the blind comparison was the RØDE NT-USB, the original, the OG. And as mentioned previously, this microphone goes for $169. Microphone E in the blind comparison was the neat Skyline, which usually goes for around $70. Well, now that we've went through the basics, the specs, we tested it out, we did the comparison, we made yet another long video. Just a gruelingly long video, you know? But now we can go ahead and move on to my review, my opinion, but after I edit this first section of the video, listen to this microphone a lot, listen to the comparison a lot, and then come back and give you my opinion. See you in a couple seconds. Well, now that I've went back and done a majority of the edit on this video, listened to this microphone a lot, and listened to the comparison a lot, now I'm finally ready to give you my opinion on the RØDE NT-USB MINI. Now, since there are quite a few elements to this video, and it's been a long one, I will admit, I'm going to kind of break up the review section into a couple different parts, just so it's not so all over the place. First, I just want to mention a couple things about the comparison. Then we'll move on to like RØDE Connect, and then I'll talk more specifically about the NT-USB MINI on its own. Speaking of the comparison, I'm not really going to tell you which microphone I liked the most, which microphone I think you should get, or anything like that. The comparison is really just there so you can hear some other microphones of a similar style, a similar price, and just decide what you like. But I am going to say just a couple things. I will say that a part of me kind of likes the original, the OG NT-USB sound just slightly more, but it is kind of a toss-up for me. They are actually pretty different. The NT Mini definitely has a lot more mids, and the OG NT-USB has more of like an accented high end. And it just comes down to personal preference. But based off of the form factor, price, and the fact that you can use RØDE Connect with the Mini but not the OG NT-USB, makes me lean toward the Mini, because I could kill some mids in post or accent the high end and low end like you can do in RØDE Connect with the big booty big bottom and the exciter. And speaking of that, I did something a little sneaky. It was mostly just for myself, but I do want to point it out. When I was announcing what letter was associated with which microphone in the blind comparison, I announced that microphone D was the NT-USB, and when I was doing the first section of that, I was using the NT-USB microphone. But then when I announced the price of the NT-USB, I was actually using the Mini, but I had the big bottom and exciter engaged to see if it would more closely resemble the NT-USB. I do think it resembled it a little bit more. It wasn't exact or anything like that, but if you want to go check that out again and see if you notice the difference, it's kind of a fun little thing. But I do want to touch on one other thing when it comes to the comparison and other available USB microphones. Now, I do like the RØDE Mini, spoiler alert, but I do think that if you have $100 and you're looking for a USB microphone, I don't think it's like the default choice. I mean, obviously it's going to come down to sound and everything, but I think that a big part of the NT-USB Mini is the fact that it can hook up to RØDE Connect. I don't think RØDE Connect alone is the reason to buy this microphone. It's nice to have though. Definitely a nice addition, and I do think it's a really nice little recording app but it's pretty limited. But if you're looking for a microphone that you can just plug in, it's going to sound good, you don't really care about the RØDE Connect capabilities, and you don't plan on buying like the RØDE Video Mic NTG or the RØDE Wireless Go 2, which are also compatible with RØDE Connect, then I would honestly lean toward buying the cheaper FiFINE K678. It's $40 cheaper, and I thought that it held up when it came to sound compared to the Mini. It's a solid microphone, honestly, better build, more features on the microphone itself. Overall, a very solid microphone for $60. But now I want to talk briefly about RØDE Connect and some of the things that I like and dislike about it. First, I do just want to say that I have been using the compressor, the big booty, big bottom, and the exciter during this review section. Never the noise gate, though. Never. Because nobody should sound like this, and nobody should be having these pumping issues with their noise gate if they set it properly. So RØDE, fix it! Please! But I will say my main gripes with RØDE Connect is the fact that you can't split or delete sections of a recording, and the fact that there are no controls over the post-processing whatsoever. But the fact that you have that virtual and system fader in RØDE Connect is so cool. And the fact that you can put your own sound effects in there, awesome. Now I'd like to talk more specifically about the RØDE NT-USB Mini as a standalone microphone. Now, I did already mention when I was talking about the comparison that it is kind of a mid-forward microphone, and if you don't like that sound, maybe you wouldn't like this mic, unless of course you do like the sound when you engage the big bottom and exciter. And if you do plan to use RØDE Connect, then, I mean, problem solved, I guess, if it is even a problem for you. Now, I know I was going to talk more specifically about the microphone, and I guess this is in relation to the microphone, but also still software a little bit. But I'm not a big fan of the Reporter app on the iOS system. And this does say it is iOS compatible, which it is. I did do a recording with that. But I'm not a big fan of that app in general. And according to the reviews, I don't think many people are either. It just doesn't have great functionality. I mean, if you're just going there to press record and export, it works. And that's good. That's honestly good enough, but there are some weird little things about it that I'm just not a big fan of. Now, one of the things that does kind of bug me is when a microphone says, you know, it's compatible with a phone or iOS or anything like that, but it doesn't give you anything to connect that item. Now, I'm not saying include it for free, but I do think it would be really cool if RØDE had like a NT-USB Mini mobile kit, and it came with a RØDE adapter for the iPhone. I think that'd be a really nice addition, you know, throw an extra $20 on top, and people that actually want to use it with their phone get the correct adapter that will work every time. That just kind of bugs me. It's like, yeah, you can plug it into your phone, but you're gonna need some shit for it. I think that would be a very helpful addition. Now, one thing to be aware of about this microphone, and also just microphones like it, if you're going to get the FiFINE K678, the RØDE NT-USB, the Blue Yeti, any of them like this, and you're going to be in a very reverberant room, you're going to not love the sound. This doesn't reject sound amazingly. It does okay, but it's just something to be aware of. I'm not saying you have to completely treat your room or anything. I'm saying if you have a very reverberant room, you might want to look in a different direction. And also, I do think this microphone is meant to be closer to your mouth, should be about 4 to 6 inches away. And I don't think you should just put it on your desk, which is going to be definitely more than 4 to 6 inches away. I actually do feel like this microphone does a pretty good job for what it is when it comes to plosives. Now, I do absolutely think you should have it, you know, a little bit off to the side, pointed at the corner of your mouth, rather than it being right in front of you, because if you do that, the plosives are going to be definitely worse. Peanuts. Now, I know it sounds like I've been saying quite a few bad things about this microphone, but the bottom line is it sounds good. It comes with good accessories, comes with great build quality. The functionality is fantastic, very plug and play, easy to use. Software that comes with it is awesome. Well, mostly awesome. And I mainly just mentioned those negative things in case one of them very deeply impacts you. I really do like this microphone, and I think it'd work for a lot of people. And speaking of which, the grade that I give the RØDE NT-USB Mini is an A-. I think the RØDE Mini is a very solid product. I don't think that it completely murdered the NT-USB or anything like that. I could actually see how some singers would probably prefer the original NT-USB over the Mini. But overall, the Mini is just a very great product, and the fact that it's compatible with RØDE Connect makes it all that much more valuable. But thank you all for watching this review of the RØDE NT-USB Mini. I hope it helped you out, helped you decide whether you want to get one of these or not, but most of all, I hope you had fun. Stay tuned for a lot more reviews and comparisons. I've got some cool ones coming up with some awesome Ceremonic products, some awesome Neat products, and I don't mean like, oh, neat, like the brand Neat, and a bunch of other little stuff. A big thank you to everyone that watches, a bigger thank you to everyone that subscribes, and the biggest thank you to everyone that's a member of the Audio Hotline. But thank you all for watching the Audio Hotline. I'll see you audio nerds next time.